So have you ever opened a bottle and noticed on the cork, there's something that looks like crystals or even maybe glass that's attached to that cork? Or maybe the last glass you pour out of that bottle of wine has little, what look like pieces of glass in it. Don't worry, there's not glass in your wine. The wine's good and it's totally safe, and actually sometimes can be a sign of actually a really high quality wine. So there's a compound naturally occurring in grapes and thus in wine called potassium bitartrate. It's in every wine, so it's very common. But it's a winemaker's decision whether we want to try to extract that from the wine or not. And you'll notice almost every single white wine goes through this process called cold stabilization. What's cold stabilization? Well, right before bottling the wine, we typically put it into a tank for about 2 to 3 weeks, and we bring it down to about 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Very, very, very cold. And what happens is that potassium bitartrate actually falls out of solution during that process. White wine's usually stored in the fridge, and fridges typically range in that 35 to 37 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you leave that Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc, for example, in the fridge for a couple days or a week, you'll actually start seeing the potassium bitartrate turn into these tartrate crystals, and you'll pick up the bottle and you go, oh my God, there's glass shards in my Chardonnay, I'm not gonna drink this. So to prevent that in a white wine, we typically, almost all of our white wines go through this cold stabilization. What you'll notice is on red wines, it's really up to the winemaker. And some people think that it can maybe take something out of the end flavor of the wine, change the end flavor. So sometimes we decide to not do it. But if we don't do cold stabilization on a red wine, and then it has a high percentage of this potassium bitartrate, what'll happen is when we bottle the wine, we typically bottle cork down at Trinitas because that keeps the cork nice and moist. It helps for aging longer because you don't want the cork to dry out. But what happens is all that tartrate crystal just falls to the bottom, falls to the cork, and it literally adheres itself to the cork. So you'll notice you'll pull out the cork and it looks like a little geode on the bottom of that cork. Bottom line is very normal. Don't worry, there's not glass in your wine. You may have a little bit kind of like sediment in the bottom of the bottle too when you pour out the last glass. Just a little extra crunch in your wine, but no, it's all very normal. So enjoy it, and when you find a bottle, you can tell your friends about the really cool wine lesson you just learned.